When life feels heavy and your thoughts become loud enough to drown your own heartbeat, remember this. Peace is never lost. It only hides beneath the noise. 7th October is not just another date on a calendar. It's a symbol of the calm that follows the storm you've been carrying inside for too long. Every storm, no matter how violent, eventually runs out of rain. The same is true for your pain, your confusion, and the weight you've been dragging behind you. The chaos you've endured was not a punishment. It was a cleansing, a breaking apart of what could no longer walk with you into the next version of yourself. 7th October carries the vibration of release. It whispers that it's time to stop fighting battles that no longer need your energy. The peace you've been praying for is not something you need to search for. It's something you must allow in. For too long, you've been fighting for control, trying to understand why things happened the way they did, trying to fix what broke, trying to force your path into shape. But peace begins when you let go of the need to understand everything. 7th of October is your reminder that the divine doesn't owe you explanations. It offers you transformation instead. You were never meant to live in chaos forever. The moments of pain that brought you to your knees were preparing you to stand taller than ever before. The storm was shaping your spirit, teaching you strength through surrender, showing you how to breathe again when the air around you felt too thick to survive. 7th October brings the calm after that storm, not because everything outside you will change, but because something inside you finally will. It is the day when your soul exhales, when the noise of fear fades, and when you feel, maybe for the first time in a long while, that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You see, peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of clarity, and clarity only comes when the storm has stripped away the unnecessary. The false beliefs, the attachments, the old versions of you that no longer fit. 7th October reminds you that everything that collapsed in your life did so for a reason. The broken pieces were never meant to be glued back together. They were meant to be remade into something entirely new. You don't return to who you were before the storm. You rise as someone wiser, calmer, and unshakably centered. There is a rhythm to divine timing that doesn't always make sense in the middle of the struggle. You prayed for peace, but instead, you were given lessons. You asked for clarity, but instead, life gave you confusion. You begged for strength and you were handed pain. That was not cruelty. That was construction. Life was building you quietly through experiences that looked like endings, but were really beginnings. 7th October arrives to remind you that the calm is now earned. The peace you've been waiting for is no longer somewhere in the distance. It's here in the silence that follows your acceptance. The most powerful peace is not found in perfect circumstances, it's found in a stable mind. 7th October calls you to stop chasing after control and start choosing inner balance. The world may still be unpredictable, people may still disappoint you, but you will no longer be shaken the same way. Because when peace lives within you, the noise outside you loses its power. You start to realize that what once broke you was only teaching you how to bend without snapping. Take this moment, this 7th October, as a spiritual threshold. Step across it. Leave behind the energy of panic, the endless worrying, the constant search for answers. You don't need to rush anymore. You don't need to prove anything anymore. The storm served its purpose. The lessons have been delivered. Now, peace must be allowed to enter. And that means trusting again, not in people, not in circumstances, but in the quiet intelligence of life itself. Everything that was taken from you left space for something purer to arrive. Everything that hurt you carved out room for wisdom. Every delay was protection. The peace that 7th October brings is not a reward. It's a natural consequence of your surrender. The divine has seen your persistence, your exhaustion, your effort to keep standing even when you felt empty. And now it says, rest not in laziness, but in understanding. Rest in knowing that the chaos has done its work. Rest in the awareness that you have survived what was meant to break you. The calm after the storm is not loud or dramatic. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's subtle, like the first morning light after a long night. You feel it more than you see it. It's the deep breath that doesn't tremble anymore. It's the silence that doesn't feel empty, but safe. It's the realization that nothing outside you has changed, yet somehow everything feels different. That's the power of 7th of October, the quiet moment when your soul finally meets the peace it has been praying for. So walk slowly now. Don't rush this phase. Let the calm settle in your bones. Let 7th and October be the reminder that peace is not something you wait for, it's something you claim. You've earned it through endurance, through patience, through faith that refused to die even when hope seemed impossible. You are standing in the afterglow of your own rebirth. The storm has passed. The sky is clear, and for the first time, you can feel it. The peace that was always meant to be yours. There is a rhythm to everything that happens in your life, a divine order that doesn't move according to your impatience. 7th of October stands as a reminder that there is a difference between your timing and divine timing. You may have been waiting, begging, hoping, pushing, and still nothing seemed to move. But the silence wasn't rejection, it was alignment. The peace you've been praying for has been forming quietly, hidden in the invisible layers of time, waiting for this exact moment, 7th October, to unfold. You cannot rush divine timing. You cannot pull destiny closer by worrying about it. The more you force what isn't ready, the more resistance you create. 7th October arrives to teach that life doesn't respond to your deadlines. It responds to your readiness. Everything that was delayed for your protection. Everything that seemed to be withheld was being prepared in perfection. The peace you've been longing for was never denied. It was waiting for the right version of you to receive it. Think of the seed buried in the soil. It doesn't bloom the moment it's planted. It stays underground, unseen, while roots grow silently in the dark. That hidden stage is not failure, it's formation. In the same way, every delay you faced before 7th October was the soil preparing your foundation. You were not being ignored, you were being grown. This moment, this 7th October, is the sprouting, the result of what you couldn't yet see. The reason most people never experience true peace is because they try to force the rhythm of life. They chase moments that aren't mature yet. They pull on doors that are still being carved. But peace comes only when you stop trying to rush what's meant to ripen naturally. 7th October calls you to trust the pause, to understand that just because something hasn't arrived doesn't mean it's lost. There's a perfect order hidden within divine stillness. You weren't waiting for time to catch up. Time was waiting for you to evolve. Everything that belongs to you will meet you when you're ready to carry it. Before that, life will strip away your distractions. It will test your patience. It will burn down your comfort. Not because it's cruel, but because peace cannot live inside a restless spirit. 7th October brings the reminder that true timing aligns not with what you want, but with who you've become. The peace you've prayed for is already here, but you needed to learn calmness first. Otherwise, you wouldn't recognize it when it came. There were seasons when you begged for answers and heard nothing. There were nights when you thought your prayers disappeared into silence. But silence is not absence, it's preparation. The divine was working behind every closed door, rearranging your path in ways you couldn't yet understand. 7th October is the day when those invisible shifts become visible, the day when confusion turns to clarity, when waiting finally makes sense. The timing wasn't late, it was exact. You were never forgotten. Every delay was divine protection in disguise. You were saved from things that would have distracted you, from paths that would have drained your spirit, from people who couldn't carry the peace you were praying for. 7th October opens a space where you can finally see that all those unanswered prayers were answered differently and better. It's a reminder that divine timing always delivers more than what you thought you lost. Peace doesn't rush. It moves slowly, purposefully, without noise. You are being invited to live the same way. On a 7th October, the energy around you asks for stillness. It teaches that rushing leads to resistance, but patience opens doors. Every storm you've endured, every disappointment, every silent night was shaping your rhythm to match divine timing. And now that rhythm is in sync. This is why things that once felt heavy suddenly feel light. Why what used to confuse you now feels clear. The waiting has ended because you've entered alignment. When divine timing moves, it moves with precision. Nothing is missing, nothing is delayed, nothing is wasted. The job that didn't come, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that fell apart, all of it was rearranging you towards something better, prepared for your peace. 7th October is not the beginning of luck. It's the realization of order. It's the day when the things meant for you stop hiding. Peace comes when you no longer argue with time, when you stop saying, "Why not now?" and start saying, "Whenever it's right." That shift is power. That's when you stop chasing and start attracting. 7th October is the vibration of surrender, not the weak kind, but the strong, sacred kind that says, "I trust that what's mine will arrive when I'm ready." You don't fight life anymore, you flow with it. And when you flow, peace becomes effortless. So let 7th October be your turning point. Stop rushing what's meant to take time. Stop thinking that delays are denial. Every moment before this one was training, teaching you patience, humility, and strength. The timing wasn't off, you were just being tuned. This is your season of perfect rhythm, where every step begins to make sense and where peace no longer feels distant. 7th October doesn't promise you a new world, it promises you a new awareness. It shows you that peace is already here, waiting in the same moments you once called waiting. Divine timing has finally aligned with your spirit. You are ready now, not because time decided so, but because you did. And when your readiness meets divine rhythm, everything unfolds effortlessly. That is the power of 7th October, the moment when what you prayed for finally finds its way home. There comes a moment in life when holding on becomes heavier than letting go. You've been gripping the same fears, the same expectations, the same memories, thinking that control would keep you safe. But control is an illusion. It keeps you in tension, it traps you in anxiety, it makes you believe that you are the one keeping the world from falling apart. 7th October arrives as a soft truth, reminding you that peace doesn't come from control. It comes from release. The day is not about losing, it's about freeing. It's the quiet turning point where you stop forcing and start flowing. For so long, you've tried to fix what life had already asked you to walk away from. You've carried guilt that was never yours, fought for things that were already finished, and begged for answers when silence was the answer itself. 7th October tells you that this struggle ends now. The weight you've been holding on to, the thoughts, the expectations, the what ifs have been blocking your peace. When you release control, you don't lose power, you rediscover it. Because surrender is not weakness, it's alignment. You see, life has a rhythm that doesn't respond to your pressure. It responds to your openness. When you cling, you close yourself to the natural movement of things. But when you let go, you make room for the divine to move through you. 7th October marks the shift from force to flow. It teaches that not everything broken needs repair, and not every silence needs to be filled. Some things are meant to fall away so that your spirit can finally breathe. Letting go is not about forgetting or pretending you don't care. It's about understanding that you cannot heal while still holding onto the blade that cuts you. You can't receive peace while gripping pain. You can't move forward while your hands are full of the past. 7th October whispers that peace is waiting right on the other side of your release. The moment you decide to stop controlling how things unfold, life begins to unfold in your favor. There is a hidden power in surrender. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it simply allows. On a 7th October, you are asked to allow life to unfold without fear. You are asked to trust that what's meant for you will stay and what's not will fade, no matter how tightly you hold. Every ending before this day was clearing a path for something pure to enter. Every loss was redirecting your focus back to yourself. You were never being punished. You were being prepared to receive in peace, not desperation. Think about how the river moves. It doesn't fight the rocks in its way. It flows around them. It finds another path, but it never stops moving. That's what 7th October invites you to become, not rigid, not resistant, but fluid, because life isn't meant to be controlled. It's meant to be experienced. The more you try to control it, the more it controls you. But the moment you let go, you find your rhythm again. You stop fearing change because you realize change has always been your teacher. Letting go doesn't mean you no longer care about what you've lost. It means you've learned to care about your peace more. It means you've stopped chasing validation and started choosing alignment. On 7th October, something inside you begins to shift. You begin to understand that peace cannot coexist with tension. You begin to feel lighter not because life got easier, but because you stopped resisting what is. This is the transformation that happens when you finally surrender. The mind quiets, the body relaxes, the spirit expands. You stop living from reaction and start living from awareness. You stop fighting the same battles and start observing them dissolve. This is the peace you've been praying for, not a life free of problems, but a heart free of resistance. And 7th October is the doorway to that freedom. Everything you've lost before this moment was never punishment. It was pruning. The divine was trimming what no longer served your growth. You thought you were losing stability, but you were actually gaining space. Space for new thoughts, new energy, new peace. On the 7th of October, you begin to see that letting go was never about giving up. It was about clearing the ground for what's truly meant to grow. It takes courage to release. It takes wisdom to trust that what falls away is not meant to destroy you. Every piece of your old self that broke away was a layer of resistance melting off. You are becoming lighter, more aware, more alive. This day, 7th October, carries the vibration of relief, that deep exhale that comes after years of holding your breath. It's the kind of peace that doesn't come from winning battles, but from realizing you no longer need to fight. So, on this day, breathe deeply. Let the weight drop from your shoulders. Let go of the need to be right, to be in control, to understand everything. Let the unknown be your teacher, and you are not the mind. The more you release, the more you rise. You don't need to control the future anymore. You just need to trust the direction. You've already survived what you thought you couldn't. Now, it's time to stop surviving and start living. 7th October is not the end of something, it's the return to yourself. It's the moment when your spirit stops chasing and starts allowing. The peace you've been searching for will find you when you finally stop reaching for it. Because peace doesn't arrive when everything is perfect. It arrives when you are no longer afraid to let go of what's not. And on this day, something deep within you finally understands. You don't lose yourself by surrendering. You find yourself there. There is a strength that does not need to shout. It doesn't fight. It doesn't chase. It doesn't prove. It simply is. That strength is found in silence. 7th of October carries the energy of that silence. The kind that doesn't come from isolation, but from understanding. It is the moment when you stop reacting to every noise around you and begin to listen to the quiet wisdom within. In that silence, peace is born. Not the temporary kind that fades when the world gets loud again, but a deep and lasting calm that no chaos can shake. You've spent so much of your life running from silence. You filled every empty space with distraction, every quiet moment with noise, because you feared what you might hear if you stood still. But silence is not your enemy. It is your mirror. It shows you the truth you've been avoiding. the emotions you've buried, the lessons you've ignored. 7th October arrives to show that silence is not emptiness. It is awareness. It's the space where clarity finally has room to speak. In silence, you begin to hear life differently. You notice how often your mind has been shouting, how your thoughts have been spinning without pause. You realize that peace was never far away. It was simply hidden under the constant noise of fear, comparison, and control. 7th October reminds you that the world doesn't always reward stillness, but your soul does. When you stop chasing every voice outside you, you begin to recognize the quiet authority of your own spirit. There is power in not responding to every disturbance. There is strength in choosing calm over reaction. You are not weak for being silent. You are wise, because silence is not the absence of power. It is the control of it. 7th October carries this lesson deeply. You don't need to prove your growth through words or show your peace through noise. The calmest waters are the deepest ones. When you sit in silence, the noise inside you begins to settle. Thoughts that once ran wild start to lose their power. You begin to see what really matters and what was only distraction. This is where peace lives, not in avoiding life, but in facing it with stillness. On a 7th of October, something inside you will slow down. The rush will fade. The constant need to explain yourself will dissolve. You realize that silence speaks louder than any argument, any justification, any attempt to be understood. The path of self-growth is not always loud and dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, invisible. It happens in the moments when you choose to breathe instead of react, to observe instead of judge, to reflect instead of speak. 7th of October is a reminder that silence is not passive. It's active transformation. It's where you refine your energy and you are not the body, and you redirect your focus, where you remember that peace doesn't need an audience. You will start to see how silence protects you. Not everything deserves your words. Not every situation requires your energy. There is a quiet confidence that grows when you learn to walk away from noise. The world around you may still be chaotic, but you no longer are. 7th October brings that shift, the understanding that silence is not loneliness, it's protection. It shields your peace, it guards your focus, it strengthens your spirit. There will be people who won't understand your calm. They mistake your silence for weakness, your peace for disinterest. Let them. 7 October teaches that true strength doesn't seek validation. You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth because you've finally seen it yourself. And when you stand rooted in silence, the noise of others can't move you anymore. Silence also reconnects you to gratitude. When the world quiets, you start to notice the small things again, the rhythm of your breath, the softness of light, the calm of your own heartbeat. These are not small details, they are reminders that life continues even in stillness. 7th October reminds you to slow down enough to feel alive again. Peace is not something you chase, it's something you notice, and you can only notice it when you stop to listen. This is what makes silence powerful. It teaches you self-control. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't deserve it. You stop explaining your peace to people who thrive in chaos. You stop looking for external validation. And the moment you stop seeking, you start seeing. On a 7th October, you begin to realize that silence is not the lack of action, it's precision. You no longer fight every battle. You choose where your energy goes, and in that choice, you find peace. The truth is, silence is where the divine meets you. When everything else is stripped away, when words no longer help, when explanations lose meaning, silence remains. It is in that silence that you feel the deepest connection to life, to spirit, to your purpose. 7th October is that doorway, the still point between what was and what's becoming. You are not lost in the quiet, you are found there. So let 7 October be the day you embrace silence, not as escape but as strength. Let it remind you that the most powerful people are not the loudest, but the calmest. Those who move with quiet confidence don't need to be seen. They are felt. You are learning to be one of them. The storm has taught you how to stand firm, but the silence will teach you how to stay peaceful. When you wake on the 7th October, don't rush into noise. Don't reach for distraction. Sit still, even for a moment, and feel the calm that rises from within. That is peace. That is power. And that is the beginning of everything new. There comes a time when you stop fighting what life has already decided. You stop arguing with the past. Stop trying to rewrite what's already been written. 7th of October is that time, the moment where you begin to see that peace is not found in resistance but in acceptance. Transformation does not happen when life finally becomes easy. It happens when you accept it as it is and decide to grow within it. Acceptance is not giving up. It is waking up. It is realizing that what happened did not destroy you. It shaped you. For too long, you've been trying to make sense of the things that broke your heart. You've questioned why certain people left, why doors closed, why your timing never seemed right. But 7th October carries a quieter truth. Nothing that fell apart was meant to stay. Everything that ended was part of your awakening. Acceptance is what turns pain into wisdom. When you stop asking why, you start seeing what now. That shift is where peace begins. You see, transformation doesn't begin with control. It begins with surrender. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree with what happened. It means you've stopped letting it control your energies. 7th October is the day you reclaim that energy. It's the moment you realize that all the things that once felt unfair were actually the training ground for your growth. You were being refined, not punished. Life was carving out the unnecessary parts of you so the truest version of your spirit could finally emerge. Acceptance changes the vibration of everything. The moment you accept something, it loses power over you. You no longer carry the same emotional weight, the same frustration, the same exhaustion. What you once called failure becomes a lesson. What you once called loss becomes redirection. And what you once called waiting becomes preparation. 7th of October is the reminder that nothing was wasted. Every delay, every heartbreak, every closed door was pushing you closer to who you were meant to be. It takes courage to look at your past without judgment, to see the moments that hurt and say, I learned, to see the people who left and say, that's not weakness, that's strength, because growth is not about erasing pain, it's about transforming it. It's about using what once broke you as fuel to build something better. 7 October teaches that you can't change what happened, but you can change how you carried it. You can stop living from the wound and start living from the wisdom. When you accept something, you take back your peace. You stop waiting for closure from others. You stop needing apologies that may never come. You stop replaying memories in search of meaning. Acceptance is freedom. 7th October holds that freedom in its silence, the freedom that comes when you finally release the fight. You no longer need everything to make sense. You just need to trust that it already does. Growth always comes wrapped in discomfort. You can't evolve and stay the same. The pain you felt was not an ending, it was an awakening. 7th October marks that shift from victim to creator, from resistance to flow. The things that once felt heavy will start to feel lighter, not because they changed, but because you did. You've learned to see the blessing hidden inside the breaking. Acceptance also teaches compassion. When you stop fighting your own story, you stop fighting the world. You stop blaming, stop comparing, stop expecting life to be fair. You begin to see that peace is not about control, it's about understanding that everything unfolds exactly as it should. 7th of October invites you to breathe again, to stop carrying the weight of the should have been, and start embracing what is. The moment you accept your life fully, you step into alignment with it. Everything that was taken from you cleared the space for something purer. The people who walked away made room for new connections. The opportunities you lost were replaced by ones that would honor your growth. 7th of October is the day where all of this becomes clear. The storm was never there to destroy you, it was sent to wash away what couldn't stay. Now the air is clean, the sky is open. The peace you've been praying for finally feels possible because you've stopped resisting the flow of life. Transformation through acceptance is not a single moment, it's a way of being. It's choosing to see purpose where others see pain. It's deciding to trust life even when you don't understand it. It's remembering that growth often feels like loss before it feels like clarity. 7th of October will whisper that truth to your soul, that nothing is missing, nothing is wasted, and nothing was ever truly lost. Everything you've walked through has brought you to this point of awareness. On this day, let yourself breathe in acceptance. And you are not the mind. Let go of the stories you've been repeating in your mind. Let go of the idea that life should have happened differently. It didn't. It happened exactly as it was meant to. And that truth, once accepted, brings peace so deep that it no longer depends on circumstances. That's what 7th of October symbolizes. The moment you stop chasing understanding and start living in trust, you have changed. The pain taught you patience. The waiting taught you humility. The loss taught you gratitude. You are no longer who you were before the storm. You've grown softer, wiser, stronger. Not because life was kind, but because you finally accepted it as it was, and that acceptance has made you unbreakable. So when 7th of October arrives, don't look back with regret. Look back with recognition. Everything that brought you here was part of the design. You don't need to fight anymore. You don't need to resist what's already written. Just breathe, accept, and allow the transformation to complete itself. Peace is not coming. It's already here waiting for you to accept it. There is a moment in life when everything begins to feel different, not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. That moment is 7th October. The silent turning point when the energy shifts from chaos to calm, from confusion to clarity, from turmoil to tranquility. It is not about miracles happening outside of you. It is about awakening within you. The storm that once ruled your mind begins to lose its power, and for the first time, you feel peace not as an idea, but as a living presence inside your being. For a long time, you've been living in a constant state of resistance, fighting your emotions, chasing outcomes, trying to control the flow of life. You thought peace would come once everything around you was perfect. But 7th October teaches a different truth. It teaches that peace is not found when the noise stops. It's found when the noise no longer controls you. It is the moment when your inner world stops depending on the outer one. That is the shift. When your calm becomes stronger than your chaos. 7th October is not promising that life will suddenly be smooth. It's reminding you that peace has nothing to do with the absence of challenges. Peace is the state where challenges no longer pull you away from yourself. You begin to move differently, slower, wiser, with intention. You stop reacting to every emotion, every comment, every change. You start choosing. You start breathing. The mind that once felt like a battlefield becomes a temple. You can feel this energy shift building long before the day arrives. The restlessness that used to consume you starts to fade. The fears that once seemed louder than reason begin to quiet down. 7th October represents that threshold, the crossing from survival into awareness. You are not just existing anymore, you are awakening. And when awareness takes root, peace follows naturally. This is not something you force. You cannot fight your way into peace. You must soften your way into it. The more you resist, the tighter the energy becomes. The moment you release, everything flows. That is the teaching of 7th October, that tranquility is not earned by effort, but revealed through surrender. It was always there, beneath your worries, beneath your pain, beneath the layers of doubt. Peace doesn't need to be created. It needs to be remembered. You've lived long enough believing that change must be dramatic, but 7th of October brings a quieter transformation. It doesn't roar like thunder. It hums like still air after a storm. It's the kind of peace that doesn't announce itself, but once you feel it, you can never go back to who you were before. The energy within you stabilizes. Your thoughts slow down. You begin to listen more than you speak. You begin to see life not as something happening to you, but through you. The turmoil you carried for years was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to teach you awareness. Without chaos, you would never have known the value of calm. Without pain, you wouldn't have recognized healing. 7th October carries the energy of that realization, the understanding that every struggle had purpose. It was polishing your awareness, building your patience, and cleansing your perception. You were never being punished, you were being purified. When this day arrives, you'll notice that the same situations that once triggered you no longer do. The same problems that once consumed your thoughts now feel lighter. That's the shift, not because life became easy, but because you became steady. 7 October marks the birth of your inner stillness. The peace you prayed for no longer depends on external validation, approval, or success. It comes from a quiet knowing that you are aligned, that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Peace is not passive, it is powerful. It is not escape, it is mastery. When you stand in peace, nothing can pull you from your center. You stop overthinking, you stop fearing outcomes. Instead, you start responding with wisdom. You start living intentionally. You start radiating calm into every situation you touch. 7th October teaches that tranquility is not the end of the journey. It is the foundation of everything that follows. In this new energy, you become your own sanctuary. You no longer look for peace in other people because you have found it within yourself. The things that used to drain you, no longer attract you. The people who once disturbed your balance no longer have access to it. You begin to protect your energy like sacred ground. That's the power of 7th October. It's not just a date, it's a declaration. The declaration that your peace is non-negotiable. This day is the sign that you've crossed into a new season, one where you no longer chase things that cost your calm, where your boundaries are strong, your spirit grounded, and your heart open. The energy of turmoil no longer belongs to you. You've outgrown it. You've stepped into the frequency of stillness. You don't just talk about peace anymore, you live it. When you look back at the storms you survived, you'll see how necessary they were. They taught you what 7th October now confirms, that peace is not found in avoiding life's pain, but in embracing it without losing yourself. You'll see that every breakdown, every disappointment, every ending was pushing you toward this stillness. The chaos was your teacher, but now the lesson is complete. So when 7th October comes, breathe differently. Move differently. Don't run from the quiet, become it, and let the world do what it does while you stay grounded in what you've become. The peace that meets you on this day is not fragile, it's not dependent, it's not borrowed, it's yours. It lives inside the same heart that once broke, inside the same mind that once doubted, inside the same soul that once fought to survive. The energy has shifted, the storm has served its purpose. You have arrived at the still point, the calm center within the chaos. 7th October is not a miracle happening to you. It is the miracle happenings as you. The turmoil has ended, tranquility begins, and this time the peace stays.